Hey, so I've gotten a lot of questions about my shoes that I use for footsteps. And, how many do I have? What kinds of shoes do I have? The answer is all kinds of shoes. And how many is this many? That's just my main shoes, but let's go through them. All right, so these are my main shoes. I have way more shoes than this, but these are the ones that I use on a regular basis, and I keep them in the room with me because they come up constantly. So starting on the end, I use these for rain boots a lot because they're nice and floppy sounding. To me, rain boots generally sound a little too tappy and kind of hard, surprisingly. Then we get into heavier boots here, like firefighter boots. They start to get a little softer, more into the hiking boot kind of type. As we go along, we get into police cop boots, which are very hard, but don't have that much weight, surprisingly. They're just, they still sound authoritative though. Then we get into cowboy boots, a couple of pairs of cowboy boots. Some are heavier, some are lighter, so I use them depending on what kind of character is in the film. Keeping along with the boots, then we start getting into my men's dress shoes. These first couple are really hard and tappy, very fancy sounding. Then they get a little more comfortable, more natural sounding. I use these three here for pretty much every film. We get into softer ones, almost into the running shoe kind of area. Then into women's. These are the bigger, thicker, chunky, kind of weighted heels. They just have a little more bottom end to them. And as we go down, they get a little harder, higher pitched, kind of tappier. Then we start to get into flats, which are generally the heel and toe sound are kind of closer together when you're walking in flats, and they're not quite as pronounced as the heels would be. Into more of a running shoe area. These first few are pretty hard and tappy. I would use them mostly for kids. Then we get into the Chuck Taylors, which I love, very natural sounding. More running shoe options through here. Then they start getting really soft. Sometimes you don't want much of an impact at all, just a little bit of grit movement or sliding. Use those. And finally, some sandals, various types of sandals, mostly leather. Then we have some soft rubber ones here. Of course, the Crocs. Very hard to duplicate that sound without Crocs. Some slippers, some flip-flops, and some more slippers. So there you go. As I mentioned, this is 52 pairs of shoes, and I keep these in the room with me all the time because they get used every week. So in addition to all of the main shoes, I'm sure I have that many again, which I would just call, I guess, either secondary shoes, which can be similar, more men's, women's, heels, boots, that kind of stuff, just not my favorites, as well as specialty shoes. And by specialty shoes, mostly sports stuff, like there could be huge fishing hip waders or snowshoes, ice skates, flippers for swimming, ski boots, all that kind of stuff that just comes up from time to time. So I wouldn't keep that in the room with me. But yeah, I hope that gives you a little bit of insight into the amount of shoes we have. And if you look down the page, I did a little video about surfaces too. So between all the combinations of surfaces and all the combinations of shoes, yeah, we're well equipped to make the sound for any footsteps that come up. People were also asking about how to actually make footsteps sounds. So I'm not going to go into great detail about that, but I can give you a couple of tips on how to make footsteps sound natural as well. You got to clean the surface first. Any little bit of grit is your enemy. Clean the surface, clean your shoe. All right, when you're doing feet, it's important in most cases to get a good heel-toe sound for your walk. There are different ways to do this. Some artists prefer to go on the outside of their foot. I find that very awkward. I can't do it. I walk mostly on the insides, like that. Because if you do it flat, Probably can't hear much of a difference on the phone, but it can sound slappy. Whereas gives it a little bit more weight and character. Stopping generally as you're walking, you want to have some kind of a nice heel slide to finish it off. When I'm going upstairs, you're not really using your heels at all. It's more of a toe sound. And the one trick for distinguishing between up and down is a little slide, generally speaking. So if someone's coming down, it's very much just an impact staccato sound like this. Whereas if you're going up, you're generally getting a little bit of that movement on each step, so it sounds more like this. And then when you get to the top platform, you're on a different floor surface, so you would do the top step and then just begin walking naturally. I just listened back to some of this stuff and I really hate the sound of the phone, but it's unfortunately all I'm able to do. So just keep in mind that any of the sounds you hear on this app, on Instagram, anywhere, are all just recorded with my phone, and our professional sounds are using completely different mics. So just a reminder that anything you hear here, this is just a visual demo. It's not reflective of the sound quality that we produce. All right, thanks. Have to say that.